Hey, Derek.
Yeah, what's up, Court?
Hey, should we do a podcast?
Podcast? You know what? I was going to get some lunch, but let's do a podcast instead.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think that's what a great portrait photographer can do, is reveal something about their personality. That's a totally separate skill than being able to technically take a great picture.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the very, very first What Say Ye podcast.
Woo!
I am Court Mann.
I'm Derek Clements.
And we're really excited to be doing this. I've wanted to do a podcast for a little while, and I thought what better thing to tackle than just the arts and the entertainment communities in Utah and Utah Valley specifically. So that's going to be our focus. We'll probably deviate from that sometimes, I would imagine, right, Derek?
Yeah, when there's cool things elsewhere.
Yeah. Like if we see a movie that we both really like and we're like, let's just dedicate an hour to talking about this cool movie we saw. Like, I think we should do that.
I agree with that.
And as I was thinking about first guests, really, genuinely the first person that came to my mind is who is sitting next to us now, and that's Justin Hackworth. How's it going, Justin?
I'm doing great.
Oh, boy.
I'm so glad to be here to do this. This is going to be great.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Justin Hackworth, we'll give you a little, I know, how could anyone not know who you are, right? I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on Justin. So actually, Justin, how about you just tell us about yourself? Because
Sure.
You're probably better at speaking about you than I am.
I'm an Idaho boy. I grew up in Idaho. I moved to Utah to go to school. I work as a photographer. My studio's here in Provo. I've been making a living as a photographer for 17 years, and I do a lot of weddings and portraits and a handful of miscellaneous things, but everything to deal with photographing people, that's what I do. And in the last few years, I've also been interested and starting to do a lot more teaching photography. I am happy to live here in Provo. I'm one of the co-founders of the Rooftop Concert Series, along with C. Jane Kendrick and Sarah Wiley. And I'm married, got some kids. How's that? Is that a good intro?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect intro. I as I thought about who could reflect on the arts and just Utah generally and the arts communities here in Utah Valley, I thought you'd be a great person to have on. So, yeah, man.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Well, so we want to start by asking, I think we'll do this with all our guests, but we'll start with you because you're our first guest. So,
Okay.
with sort of an early memory of arts, like was there a book or a movie or a play or a photo or some kind of thing in the arts that you recall that really got you passionate about it or that you can really recall as an early memory?
That's a really great question, and I don't think I have one specific memory, but I do have a collection of memories, and it's this. So I mentioned I'm from Idaho. I grew up in a farm town with 18,000 people. So in a town like that, you wouldn't expect to have a thriving art community, but there was a community college there, a junior college. It was Rick's College, and so any kind of exposure to art came from my interaction with Rick's. My father was a professor there, and so we went to plays and we went to concerts, and so I don't know about any specific, here's a first interaction with the arts, but I know that we went to a lot of concerts, and they were not the kind of concerts I would have chosen. We were dragged there, which I now am grateful for. We went to plays, which I was always happy to go to, but I would say that's, my first memory of the arts and being involved with the arts would have to be with those kinds of things that we went to up at Rick's College.
What types of concerts did you go to that you were dragged to?
Oh, like orchestra or like a quartet or something like that, I don't think most 12-year-old kids or 10-year-old kids are going to be all that worked up about seeing the cello. But that's the kind of thing we went to. And I look back now and think that was really great exposure. And even if later on I still say, no, that's not the kind of music I went to, at least I had that opportunity to have that encounter.
Important question. Is it Rick apostrophe S college?
No, it's-
or just Rick's.
That's so.
So there's not like a.
Yeah.
It should definitely
like
be
a-
apostrophe.
Who
S.
is Rick? Who is Rick?
And he's
And
like,
right next
this
to-
is my college.
how did he get a college
Right next to
name
like
after?
John's Diner and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
There's no apostrophe.
Thank you for clearing that up for me. I was always curious.
Yeah, people ask that. Who's Rick? Why does he get a college?
Well, when did you feel like you had taste? I suppose. Like when do you remember feeling like something was good and something was bad? It wasn't just a blob of stuff that was presented to you anymore.
Yeah, that is another great question. I don't know, but but let me.
He's like, I'm still waiting for that moment.
Yeah.
I do know that when I was in high school, that my taste in music was different or than most people in my high school. And this is before online streaming and all of that, and so your exposure to music would be what you hear on the radio, and so it's just top 40 and country. That's what I heard, and so I wasn't that interested in, I don't know, what are they playing on the radio, like ABBA and Donna Summers, and then I was interested in other things like maybe ABC or Depeche Mode or something like that, and I'm not saying that's when I thought I had taste, but I know that's when I could see that the kinds of things I was drawn to were not mainstream.
What year did you graduate high school?
1986.
1986. It was a good year, I heard. Dating myself. Or dating you, or both of us, I don't know. I was born in 87, so I was not far behind.
Hey, I was born in 87 too.
Hey, all right.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I'm sitting here with babies.
Yeah. Babies who also shave their heads
Yeah.
and have beards.
Yeah, we all look the same.
Yeah, so little tidbit for you guys out there. All three of us shave our heads and have beards, and miraculously today, all three of us just wore black T-shirts.
That's so funny because I hardly ever wear a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Unless I'm going to bed or mowing the lawn.
Right.
And then I don't know why I'm wearing a black T-shirt
You just
today.
can
And then
tell.
it just happens that we're all wearing the same thing.
It's podcast dress, man. It's
Yeah.
podcast uniform.
Derek, you need glasses, and then we'd
do.
all be brothers.
Yeah.
I actually think I do need glasses, so that's.
Well, let's
yeah.
talk a little bit about photography and the times that I've interviewed you has been really helpful for me to like get a window into the arts community, specifically the photography community, and have got to meet a lot of amazing people through there. How long have you been in Utah Valley as a professional photographer?
10 years,
Okay.
I think. Yeah, we moved to Provo. We moved to Provo 10 years ago, and we sort of came here by accident. I went to school at the U, and my wife went to BYU, and we got married. We moved in the middle. We moved to Lehigh, and then we were looking for a bigger house, and we found one in Provo. And honestly, I never thought I would come to this town. I never thought I would move here. But we drove up and we walked in, and it has these really great windows that sort of cover the whole wall area, looking over Timpanogos. And I said, all right, let's get this house. I mean, I spent less time deciding on a house than sometimes I've decided on buying a shirt.
Wow.
And we're like, okay, let's buy it. And we moved to Provo. We didn't know anything about the neighborhood, which we now absolutely love. We're so glad we're there.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we were sort of drawn there, and in forces that were beyond me. I'm so glad we are where we are. So that was 10 years ago, and then shortly after that, I got a space. I have a studio right downtown, and I've been in that building, the Night Block building, for about 9 years. And when I first had a presence here, I'm not from this town, and we don't have family here, and it was hard to make some inroads. I felt like there were a lot of people who grew up here, and they know all the stories and all the families and all the history, and we didn't really know any of that, and I felt like it was kind of hard to sort of penetrate that. And I think it was the Rooftop Concert that made a huge difference, being involved in the Rooftop Concert, because I don't think that has necessarily helped my business. It doesn't really promote my business. I shoot the concerts, but I'm not a concert photographer. And no one's really making the connection between, seeing my photos as a rooftop concert and, hey, let's hire him to shoot our wedding. No one ever makes that connection. So it's not necessarily promoting or helping my business, but it is in the way that I feel like I'm now part of this community in a way I hadn't been before. I'm making inroads. I'm meeting a lot of people. That's the reason I know you, Court.
Yeah.
I know a lot of musicians now, and all of that is a result of the rooftop concert. And so those two things have really been really symbiotic and have helped me feel like I'm a part of this town.
Yeah. We do definitely want to get to the rooftop concert in a bit, but with photography, so you said you shoot weddings. What other types of photography do you do, and what do you do in your studio? Do you mainly do like the post-production kind of stuff of the photos to make it look great? Or like, tell me about that.
I like my favorite thing to shoot is weddings. I tell people that, and that seems so mystifying to them. But weddings are really great, and I'm good at weddings.
Yeah.
So that's why I like that. I think that the way I want to photograph an event, it just fits with my style. Sort of a photojournalistic approach. I don't control a lot. I don't tell people do this. I'm there as an observer.
Yeah.
As a well-paid observer to figure out what the story of the day is.
Yeah, I saw on I think it's your Twitter that you say you do a documentary style of photography. Is that a common thing for photographers to say, or is that kind of...
I stole it
where'd you
from
come to
Kent
that?
Miles.
Okay.
I should probably either take it off or quote Kent Miles.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, it's a cool idea. What does it mean?
Well, you think of a documentary photographer like, Sebastião Salgado, who shows up at a place and he is reporting visually on what he sees. And so there's that versus, someone who's maybe more lifestyle where they control everything and they say, we want the color palette to be this and we want the look to be this. And it has a really contemporary but dated, a modern dated feel. And I think what I'm trying to do is to say these pictures look like what it really looked like. I'm not trying to come up with some idealized version of the world. This is what it really looked like, and that the pictures will stand the test of time. In 10 years you'll look at them, in 40 years you'll look at them and say, this picture still stands up, it still holds up because it's a great image and not because of some kind of visual trickery that people applied in 2016.
Yeah. Wow, fascinating.
What are some of like the most peculiar things you've captured on camera at weddings? If you are at liberty to disclose.
Nothing sordid or torrid like that.
Uncover the family secrets at the wedding.
Nothing. Everything's been pretty straight up. I mean, I think the things that are most arresting are, raw emotions that come at a wedding. Like one of my favorite things at a wedding is when the bride dances with the dad. That's such a beautiful moment because even when at the altar the dad walks her down and sort of that's the time he gives her away. Like this is such a tender, beautiful scene when they're dancing together. And I remember one time photographing a father and her daughter dancing. And he leaned in and whispered to her, "You've never looked more beautiful." And I just get chills. I love that. I just think that is so fantastic. And
I think that's a line from Father of the Bride, maybe. I think you stole that. No, just kidding.
It works.
It's a beautiful moment, regardless.
And I want to make an image that you feel that, whether you hear that or not, you feel that. So that's a power. I feel like I'm looking for... That's a powerful moment, but I'm looking for things that are maybe a little bit more subtle that still have meaning when they're listening to the toasts and the groom reaches over and puts his hand on her leg and, beautiful little things like that. So something grand and something small that all have meaning.
Yeah. I really like on your Twitter account and on your Instagram, you'll share pictures of like all the women's heels or all them like crossing their legs the same way. And like, I love stuff like that. And I imagine that adds that becomes probably more of a valuable picture as time goes on.
Yeah, I hope so. What I hope happens is that I'm going to make a record of their day, and now they love it because, they're connected to it emotionally, but that in 20 years and 40 years, it has far more value to them than it does today.
Wow.
And then they pass it on. Huh. I'm making a record for their family. In fact, a tagline I sometimes use is, we're not just making pictures, we're making history. Huh. And I'm thinking that these are the kinds of things that will be passed down. Joseph Adler has a saying that says, if your heirs won't fight over it, we won't sell it. And I love that. I feel like that's, as a goal for a photographer, that's what I want my goal to be, is that the kids will later say, no, I get that. No, I get that.
Yeah.
What you're describing is a pretty good counter argument, I would say, to the idea that, well, we all have phones in our pockets that have cameras that have never been better, right? Like, a lot of people might not even buy the types of cameras they would have bought before, because we all have them in our pockets, and we must all be able to do it. But what you're describing is photography that is art, right? Isn't it? It's not something that just anybody can do because we have the technology in our pockets.
I don't think it's something anyone can do, and that's why you hire a professional to do it. The camera is a tool, but I mean the real vision comes from the artist, and that's not just for photography. So the tool is an extension of the photographer or the artist's brain, and so while making a picture might be easier, making a good picture is just as hard as it ever was.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I love to talk to artists about, whatever kind of craft they decide to delve into, is how their perception of the craft changes over time as they, exercise a lot of repetition, and they, for you shooting so many events, for you over the past, like 10 years that you've been here in Provo, how has your own viewpoint about photography or feelings about it changed? Has it all, or the trade?
Yeah, I think that my impression of how to pitch it, how to market it, how to sell it, that for sure, that changes all the time.
Yeah.
And hopefully I'm getting better at that part. I feel like what I'm realizing is that nuance makes a huge difference. There's a great saying by Mark Twain, and he says, the difference between the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and lightning bug.
Yeah, nice.
And in an image where I'm taking a lot of pictures in a sequence, one of those is going to work, and it's the one that's just right, and the frame before it is pretty close, and the frame after that looks kind of like it, looks a lot like it, but it's just not the same. A raised eyebrow or a raised shoulder, or the lip curls a different way, or the eyes are a little brighter, and that makes all the difference. There's the home run. And so I feel
what
like
an important
that's one of the
lesson
things.
for all art forms, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely. But that's one of the ways that I think my impression of photography has changed over the years, is that nuance makes a huge difference.
Do you use your phone camera a lot?
Yeah, I use it to take notes, you know? Like I see a funny thing and I say, I got to show my wife Amy that. So I take a picture. But, the other day, my son, who's 2, was out on the sidewalk, and it was at this perfect time of day when the light was coming through. And, the best camera to use is the one you have with you.
Yeah.
And so I took a picture with my phone, and that's fine. Yeah. But here's the problem with camera phone pictures. On the one hand, one of the things it's done is it's made all photographs become less valuable, because now they're on your phone. You have 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 pictures on your phone, and you'll never do anything with them.
Yeah.
So in that sense, they don't have value to you.
Yeah.
Because they're just sitting there, and you're never going to look at them again.
Right.
So on the one hand, camera phone pictures, having a camera on your phone has made photography less valuable to you, to the individual. But then on the other hand, you have access to it any time. And so I think the trick is, even if you take pictures with your camera phone, you got to print those pictures. I think there's so much value in a tangible printed image. That's what's going to last. That's what's going to be passed on, and not digital images.
Yeah. Talking about the value of photography, and this is something that all artists struggle with, is making a living with this art, with this thing. Because, talking right now, it totally makes sense why this is a valuable, profession, and why this happens. But sometimes people really struggle to make it in this kind of business, in the artistic business. And could you talk about maybe your struggles with this, or how have you found success?
Blood, sweat, toil.
Yeah.
And tears. It's so hard. It's a hard job to do.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. Let's see. Let me think. I don't know what else I would do besides being a photographer. I have so many interests. I think ideally I could do a lot of things, but I don't know. I'm just so compelled to do this as a job. Yeah. And so I found success by making so many mistakes. I just have made a lot of mistakes. So I think when you're looking at someone who has succeeded in any profession, it's probably they've made the most mistakes. They've made more mistakes than other people. And that's the case with me. I've just made a ton of mistakes. And a lot of that has been in the business part of it, trying to figure out how to run a business. But I'm really grateful. I mean, it's been successful. I continue to be able to work as a photographer. Yeah. So I should say that the reason I have found any success at all in Provo is because I've had a lot of help from people. So I make mistakes, but I've also had a lot of help. Yeah. So that, people who have taken an interest in the business and are willing to talk about, hey, hire Justin, or, my wife has so many great ideas and she's been a huge part of this. I probably would not be in business if I didn't have such a supportive wife, because she, like I said, this is hard. Blood, sweat, toil, and tears. This is hard. So since it's hard for me, it's hard on her. And she stood by and said, no, let's make this thing work. So I would have to say that any of the success that has gone along with the business is a result of other people.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Have you ever sold yourself short, like maybe in the beginning days? I think a lot of artists can, not charge when they probably should charge, kind of thing.
Oh, man, yeah. I think it goes on all the time. I mean, so this is a battle, because in the early days, it wasn't that I sold myself short. I just didn't know what it cost to run a business.
Totally, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Obviously, you shoot people from all different walks of life, whether you're shooting a band or you're shooting a member of LDS leadership or whatever. And obviously, people are sometimes trying to convey something about themselves, or they're just trying to be who they are. There's some kind of range there. Do people's personalities always shine through no matter what? Or can they really hide it if they're trying to present a certain kind of version of themselves?
I think celebrities who have been photographed over and over and over again can hide it. They can keep something vulnerable away. They know their good side, they know how to present themselves, and that they're trained to do that over and over and over again. So I think celebrities, that's the case. But I've hardly photographed any celebrities. So that's not something I've dealt with. But I think that's what a great portrait photographer can do, is reveal something about their personality. That's a totally separate skill than being able to technically take a great picture. That's the art of it. Photography is an art and a science. The science is, hey, here's how to use this tool and get a great exposure and learn how to use light. And the art is, how do you reveal something? How do you show the viewer something that they've never seen before? So that is an entirely separate skill, and so that's what I try to do all the time. So I have a way to do that. I have a technique. When people come to be photographed, I don't even get out my camera. I start talking to them, because everyone is uncomfortable getting their picture taken. Even people who are used to be photographed a lot. It's a vulnerable place to be in. So I talk to them, and I talk to them about their favorite subject themselves. And I ask them questions about, where they grew up and all, how they met their spouse. And then I'll say, okay, we're going to go, now we're going to start. And if we're in the studio, I'll go to the studio and I'll keep talking to them. I'll take a few pictures, but I'll keep talking to them. So they don't really even, so the portrait session hasn't even really started. It has. For me, it has. But for them, they're still having a conversation. And then I just continue that and just sort of drag them in slowly to where, we're halfway done and they don't even realize what's happening. Huh. I mean, not like I'm ambushing them and tricking them, but I just want to help them be at ease. And then what happens is part of what is the real thing about their personality, hopefully that shows through. Now, what I see a lot of photographers do, and this is I don't really like this, is that they have a preconceived idea about what the picture should look like. They've learned the rules about how to pose someone. If you sit them here and if their leg goes here or whatever, you have their shoulders in this angle. They've learned all the rules about posing. And what happens then is all of those pictures start to look the same and none of the personality of the person shines through. So I get that there are certain positions that are more flattering than others, and I think you got to know what those are and take advantage of those. But what I want to do is I want people's gestures and expressions to be the thing that shines through.
Yeah.
Is there ever a moment where you can go, when you're in a session and you go, their personality really finally came through, like they finally let the wall down?
Yes, that happens. I would say when you're doing when I'm doing engagement pictures, that's when people are typically less eager to sort of let go and so it doesn't always happen. I work really hard at making sure people are relaxed and have a good time and enjoy each other, and they're with someone they love. They should they just stand there and kiss each other, and I'll get a picture of that. But
good work if you can get it.
That's where I see it. I mean, when I'm doing pictures of couples, and then it's obvious at some point they just and then they're more present and they let go. I don't think people let go entirely. I mean, it's uncomfortable being photographed.
Yeah,
sure.
I bet people appreciate that technique because and people would say, oh, I want to make sure that my best side is captured, but I think that the best photographs are the ones when it's real, when something authentic and beautiful can kind of come through, whether regardless of whether it's like technically my best side or whatever,
Well, those are the kinds of photographs that resonate with me the most. Not my own, but when I'm looking at the work of other photographers, that's the thing that I look at and say, oh yeah, that just feels right.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool when a piece of art, how do I say this? When a piece of art is so great in spite of itself, Because I've written things where I go, from a structure standpoint, this really is totally ridiculous, but it just works and it's just great. And I'm sure that there's probably the same kind of principle in photography where you're like, well, this thing is all weird and there's no thirds or whatever else. That's my limited knowledge of photography coming through.
Thirds, yes.
Yeah,
thirds.
yeah.
I feel like every art has some rule of thirds.
Yeah, probably. But that's cool.
Wait,
What do you say?
I was going to say, in regards to that Duke Ellington was asked, how do you know if a song is good? And he said, if it sounds good, it is good.
Yeah.
Amen.
You're good with the quotes. You're inspired by a lot of people, I guess.
So let's talk a little bit about the Rooftop Concert Series.
Well, I have one more about photos.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever photographed a wedding and you thought, because you're trying to get involved in really their authentic stuff, have you ever been like, I give this couple 5 years max?
You mean, have I been at a wedding and thought, based on their reaction, they're not going to last? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Do you have a sense of success?
Yeah, I wish so bad I was keeping statistics because I'd love to know how accurate my guessing is. And then, when I'd take notes and, based on this, and I'd have this great formula. Yeah, for sure. I wish I had better statistics.
Yeah, we can
that,
start now.
Sure. There you go.
It's never too late to start.
Okay, I will.
But yeah, Provo Rooftop. Let's get
let's
into
talk about that. I mean, you guys are starting your 7th season, is it?
Yeah,
May
7
6th?
years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My goodness. So, what can you? Okay, well maybe I'll ease into that question later.
Let's just, for people that may not know what it is. I mean, everybody in Provo knows what it is. But how did this thing get started? So you mentioned some of your other co-founders, but what is this thing, and maybe what do you recall about when you started it?
Courtney Kendrick, C. Jane Kendrick was in a group that said, how do we get more people to come downtown, or how do we increase the arts in downtown Provo? Oh. And what she has said is, I'm gonna paraphrase what she said. So I hope I'm recalling this accurately the way she would say it. Is she thought to herself, well, I don't know the answer to that, but I know some people who do. Yeah. So she called Sarah Wiley, Mindy Gledhill, myself, and said, do you want to come down to this meeting and we'll talk about this? And I said, well, yeah, Courtney, I'll do whatever you say. You say jump and I'll say how high. So I went to the meeting. I didn't even know what it was about. I didn't know what I was getting into.
This was 7 years ago or so?
It was 7 years ago in February that we had that meeting. And we said, okay, well, how do we increase the arts? How do we get people to come downtown? And Andy Gartz, who owns Slab, said, how about a rooftop concert? We all thought, that was a great idea. That's a great idea. And then the next week we went to the meeting and Andy Gartz wasn't there and he never showed up again. He just had this great suggestion and then dropped the mic and said, I'm out of here.
I got pizzas to make.
So we kept going. Well, so the four of us, Sarah, Courtney, myself, and Mindy, we started meeting on our own, the four of us, and saying, how are we going to do this? Yeah. And we just kept meeting after meeting, and no one was in charge, and no one was doing anything. And finally, Sarah Wiley took the bull by the horns and said, all right, I'm in charge. I'm going to start saying stuff. You do this. You do this. Yeah. And that first year, we said, okay, let's have a show in September and October. And our first show was Nick Day and Benton Paul. Okay. 500 people showed up, and we were floored. Like,
yeah, that's huge for a first thing.
This is so great. 500 people here.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, this is an important thing to know.
Okay. What happens next?
Is that we didn't know. We didn't know 500 people. We didn't know what we were doing. Yeah. And Sarah and I walked around to look at what are the possibilities. If we're going to do a rooftop show, what are our possibilities? Yeah. And Zion's Bank has a little deck outside on like the 5th floor or something, and it might fit 150 or 200 people or something. Mm. And we thought, oh, this is a possibility. Yeah. I mean, that's, now we get 10,000 people. That's how silly this idea of Zion's Bank was. We didn't know what we were doing, and this idea that maybe we could accommodate 100 or 200 people. We've come a long way, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's how it started. Someone said, how do we get people to come downtown? Andy Gartz said, let's put on a show. Yeah. And then the four of us took the ball and ran with it.
Wow. I want to get into that a little bit more. So first of all, C. Jane was a blogger at the time, right? Is that
and still is.
And still is, yes. And Mindy is and was at the time a recording artist.
Correct.
And what was, you said Sydney? Sorry.
Sarah Wiley.
Sarah Wiley. Who is she? I'm not familiar with her.
Sarah Wiley is great, and like I said, she sort of runs the show. Yeah. She has a lot of experience in putting on events. Her husband, Scott Wiley, owns June Audio here in town. If you're going to get it right, if you're going to have a great album, then everyone knows to go to June. Yeah. So she's been around music. She's put on events. She manages Scott's band, the Lower Lights.
Okay, yeah.
And that was our first October show. So that first year, the Lower Lights played in October. So that's who Sarah is. And I mean, she's fantastic. Yeah. And what's so great about this group, Mindy started with us. She got busy and couldn't do it anymore. But everyone had their own contribution to this. Right. And we got 500 people there team. because Courtney has a great reach. And then our next show was 1,200. And then, our next show was 1,700. And
didn't go to last year, which we'll get to. But
And all of that had to do with C. Jane, her popularity and her ability to spread the word quickly. Yeah. So, everyone had a great contribution. Yeah. And it really was a great team.
Well, and so I want to know more about the origins of this meeting. Like, whose idea was it to? It sounds like basically like, let's just make Provo really cool.
Well, so a long time ago there was there was a thing called Center Focus, and I don't know if anything else came from it. There were 5 different categories, and the arts was one of them. About, what do we do to revitalize Provo? And like I said, the arts was just one of those 5. And
these were just like concerned citizens that were
concerned citizens. I mean, sometimes people think that the Rooftop Concert is a Provo City venture.
Sure.
And it's not at all.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, they said, okay, yeah, you can do it.
Yeah.
But they didn't have anything. Provo City doesn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Now they are a sponsor. And from the very beginning, they have been a great support.
Sure.
But the concert itself and the organization doesn't have anything to do with Provo City. Thank goodness for the mayor, though. John Curtis, our mayor, is so great. He comes to every show, and from the get-go, he was a great supporter of what we're doing.
Yeah.
But it's not a Provo City venture.
Right.
It's some private citizens who said, hey, let's do this thing.
That's very cool.
And I think that's important to know because one of the things that one of the visions we had is that people would say, oh, they, 4 private citizens put on a great concert series and look how it's grown. I can do the same thing with my, storytelling festival or my sewing convention. We never actually said sewing convention, but that people
next.
have artistic endeavors and say, I want to bring that kind of thing to a large scale and I want a lot of people to be involved. And we were hoping that people would see that we had done something like that and they could too on their own, not as something that had to be sanctioned from the city.
Yeah. There's it seems like just the last decade of Provo has been pretty remarkable in moving toward interesting progress in the arts community, at least, for sure.
Well, I think that we came along at a really great time, and certainly you couldn't say that we're the reason why Provo has been revitalized, but we're certainly a cog in that wheel. Yeah. There's timing. A lot of that is timing, but a lot of it is just, I think that what we're doing is really helping shape the way Provo looks.
When I went to the Rooftop concert last year for Cascade, sort of broke my brain because I never expected to see that many people come out to a Rooftop show.
Yeah.
Do you know approximately what it was, what the turnout was?
How many people?
Yeah.
No, but sort of an estimate. We're saying probably about 20,000 or maybe 25,000. I mean, it was nuts. It was
Absolutely
just bananas.
It's like a tenth of the population of Provo. What is the population of Provo?
I don't even know.
I don't even know. I had looked that up sometime.
The previous year when we had Neon Trees, and that was our biggest show to date by far. When we had them, we had 10,000 people. I just thought, I can't even believe this is in Provo. I cannot believe this scene is Provo. I've never seen anything like it, and it was so cool.
Last year, when I sat down with you and Sarah and Courtney, and we talked about all the shows coming up, y'all didn't tell me about Cascade. At that point, did you know, and you were just keeping it on the down low until everything was finalized?
We had known for a long time, and same with the year before when we had known about Neon Trees. But both of those shows had paid concerts really close to the date they were doing a free show in Provo. So contractually, they couldn't tell anyone. I mean, I like the idea that we were building suspense and there was a big surprise at the end, but that's not why we were doing it.
Interesting.
We were contractually obligated to not say anything. In fact, we all had to sign agreements that said we were going to keep our pie hole shut, and
that was the wording in the
that was the legal. That was you know how lawyers are.
Yeah,
that's how it's said in the. Anyway, that's why we didn't tell you. We weren't trying to build great suspense. No. We couldn't say anything about it. And the case with the Neon Trees, I think we said it about a month before, but Cascade we didn't say until a week before, and we still had that enormous crowd.
Yeah, that was insane.
By the way, I looked it up. 116,000 people in Provo.
Okay,
so about almost 20% of the population was there.
What I think was so cool about that Cascade show was that there were clearly lots of people coming from Salt Lake.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that was, it was a Provo thing, but it was also just a Utah thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I thought was really interesting. This year, so last year at the Rooftop shows, you all did, was it 4 shows?
Correct.
And the previous year's was 6.
Correct.
And this year, are you doing 5? Because
Yes.
there's going to be a show coming up May 6th, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I'm happy to see that May show come back, because it always feels like it sort of is like ushering in summer, like, or at least that BYU's out for summer.
Yeah.
The May show's going to be great. The Strike, Mimi Knowles, and the Aces.
Yeah.
And
They've all played
they've
Rooftop in
all
years
played
past.
Before, yeah. Mimi played solo. He didn't play with his full band. He's going to have his full band there. And, and then, of course, the other two are fantastic. It's going to be a great show.
And now you're going to have the Provo City Center Temple in the background, fully completed.
Wondering how that'll be with the sound over there.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
You'll find out.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not on the roof anymore.
It's moved
We
off
outgrew
now.
the
Yeah.
roof.
Yeah,
There was no place for all those
bigger building.
people. And,
Yeah.
and so, for at least a year leading up to that, we could see it coming. What are we going to do? Are we going to limit how many people can come up? Should we start charging a fee? And then, there are a lot of possibilities, but it made sense to move it down on the street. But we love the name. We're going to keep the name, even though we're not on a roof. And there was something magical and quaint and beautiful and unique about being up on the roof that we lose. But it's okay, because now there's plenty of space for everybody. Anyone who wants to come, there's room. And it feels like a city event. Yeah. So we're happy to be down on the street. Everyone's safe. The street's not going to collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh boy. Well, I'm glad you're not going to change the name, because Street Side Concert Series doesn't have this. Sounds like kind of like a garbage service or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
Well, I imagine that doing the Rooftop series and then doing your own photography business has allowed you to sort of integrate into these arts communities that you might not have had access to otherwise. Tell me about how that has sort of impacted your own perception of the arts communities here, and also just Provo generally.
I think the most visible art community in Provo is the music scene, for sure.
Yeah.
It's now becoming nationally known. It gets talked about and written about. And, Velour has been such a great cooker for all of these bands. Sure. So I think what Corey has done with Velour and all of these bands who
Corey Fox, owner of Velour.
Yeah, Corey, owner of Velour. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I think what he has done just seems like a really great example of what can be done in other artistic endeavors. Mm-hmm. And I don't see it as strong in others, but Corey has proven it can be done.
Absolutely.
In a town like this.
Absolutely.
So I'm inspired by that.
Well, when you say a town like this, Provo, so what is Provo? How would you even characterize this place that we live in? Or that, Court and I happen to live here also, but...
Well, I'm thinking, when you think of thriving arts communities, I would say that a big population base usually accompanies that. Yeah. So I just mean that it's a smaller town.
Yeah.
And then historically, like I said, I've only been here 10 years, but before I lived here, I think that people talked about Provo in disparaging ways.
Right.
And that's what I mean. Yeah. That historically it hasn't been a hip town.
Yeah.
And maybe that's starting to soften a little bit. Maybe that's starting to change.
I think it is.
Yeah, someone told me, I don't even remember who, they told me that Provo, or I think it was Stephen Cope, said that Provo has become a place that you come to and not a place that you leave.
Yeah.
Because before it was always, I'm just here in the interim before I get to whatever my next thing is.
Yeah. Right. I think you're right. People are willing to stick around now and not just as soon as they're done with school, hit the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what you and I both did, Court. And
here we are.
Here we are, yeah. I've claimed Provo for a long time. I've said, like, when I'm out of Utah and people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Provo, Utah. Because I feel, I'm like a Provo mission. I want to be a Provo missionary. This idea of that.
Every member a missionary.
Yeah, that's it. But the idea of that Provo is a cool place is something that I think there's a lot of tangible evidence for, and I think what you've done in particular is part of for sure part of that.
Well, I hope you get the mayor on your podcast. You need
He would
to
be
have
great.
him
We
come.
do. I thought about that when you were
Mayor
mentioning him
Curtis,
earlier.
come on out.
You need to have him come because he'll be able to talk so.
We just need to throw a Provo party.
Yeah, Provo
and then
birthday
he'll
party.
show up.
Yeah.
I think he just magically appears whenever you have a cake that says Provo on it. He just like knocks on the door.
I must go. He's off.
Well, I guess we're sort of wrapping up here. We're going to have a round of a lightning round
Okay,
of some
great.
fast questions.
Okay.
But maybe before that, is there anything else you would add about just the arts community? Maybe are there people that other artists around here that you admire a lot that you would give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The problem with that is I'm going to forget someone.
Sure.
That later I'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, Caitlin Connolly, a painter, is doing fantastic. Brian Kershesnik, who I've just admired for years.
Yeah.
I just thought he was some kind of painting god.
Yeah.
And then now to be in the same town as him, and I would call him a friend.
Yeah.
You know, Brian's fantastic. And then, you know, there's just so many musicians. Cass Barney is one of my favorite painters. My gosh, she's good. Yeah, there's so many. I'm gonna forget. So
Well, and I love that you're talking about different types of art. I mean, it's impressive that there's different types of artists that are cool here.
Yeah. One thing that really started becoming more apparent to me as I was in my job longer and was covering a lot of music stuff, which is, I cover other stuff, but music is kind of the main thing, was that there are all these factors that are influencing the music community, but those same factors influence the other arts communities.
Yeah.
And, you know, the initial thought of the podcast was, oh, let's do it about music. And then I thought, well, that really does a disservice to all these other communities that are just as impacted by the way that Provo is and the way that Utah Valley is. And I started seeing there's so much interconnectivity, and felt like that was worth exploring.
A few weeks ago, there was a meeting over at Andrew Maxfield's house about the arts in Provo and sort of getting the Arts Council going again. And it was, I mean, there's this room of 40 people or something, and everyone in there is doing really interesting, creative stuff. And then the mayor got up there and talked a little bit about the role of arts in Provo, and they had Stuart Wheeler sing 2 songs. And I'm telling you, there's just hearing him sing and the song and listening to the song he wrote, I just thought it just doesn't get any better than that. Yeah. I mean, he is so great at what he does, and the room was full of people like that.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, shout out to Stuart Wheeler. He's in a great band, Quiet House, so go check out that band.
Nice.
All right, well, let's get to these lightning round questions. We have 10
I'll go fast.
that I had changed. I changed one.
I noticed that. That's
Answer
fine.
him lightning
So
fast.
I'll go ahead and ask that one,
Okay.
Derek.
Okay, sounds good.
Because I know exactly what I mean, even if what I wrote down isn't
Okay.
exactly what I mean.
Okay, well, why don't I start then, and then should we just take it one at a time? All right, so you can just answer the first thing that comes to your head, and we'll just go. Okay, number 1. Do you eat breakfast cereal, and what is your favorite kind?
I don't eat breakfast at all.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well, I want to explore, but we can't. It's lightning round.
Nope, we
All
can't.
right.
Moving on. Okay. Next time we have you on the podcast, we'll go back to that question, your thoughts on breakfast. Do you shave your head with a razor or with clippers?
This is important because Court and I are on opposite ends
Yeah,
of this.
both. I do both. For the most part, clippers. But
Same.
then, you know, from time to time, to give it a little extra snap, I'll do the razor.
Good answer.
It's a beautiful thing. Is there a particular rooftop concert show that just brings back great memories or that you really loved, really proud of?
Listen, all of them have been great.
Yeah.
There isn't one that I haven't liked. I've loved every single one. But from year to year, Paul Jacobson puts together the tribute shows, and he puts together a house band, and he brings together a number of musicians, and they all take turns singing a song, and it's just magic, absolute magic. And I feel like those over the 7 years that we've been doing this, 6 years and now our 7th, those have consistently had the most impact.
Great, terrific.
Good answer. Who is the most entertaining local person to follow on Twitter?
Trevor? Tre4? Tre4? Trevor, probably?
Yeah, good answer.
Trevor, I think. Great photographer, a good friend. I'm going to say Trevor. I like following you.
Thank you. Thank you. That was not a leading question, but I'll take it. Thank you.
What
You
what
can
are
follow
on
me
Twitter?
if you want
Now's your
to.
chance
Yeah.
to say what you
So
are.
I am at the Court Man. So find me
The
on there
Court Man.
and be
Derek, what are you?
disappointed by this endorsement.
I'm at Terrific, with a D, like terrific, but with a D.
So how do you spell it?
Derrific.
Okay, important. We got to say it.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Important. All right. Is there a particular rooftop concert that kind of just blew up, or was it a total disaster, or is there a
No.
particular screw up, like a mistake that you made?
Well, probably mistakes I made, but no, there haven't been any disasters. There's, the rain came July 2013 or 14. We had a really fluke rainstorm, and we had to move the show over to Velour, but that wasn't a mistake.
Yeah.
That's just
That was such an incredible night. That was like my first week, I think, working at the Herald, or my second week.
really. So
wow.
what year was that?
That was 2013.
July 2013.
Yeah, and covered that as one of my first things, and was
That
this
show
incredible.
at Velour was so fantastic. The problem was only 300 people got to see it. They did a second show,
Yeah.
and that was just as great. I mean, can you believe those guys did 2 shows back to back?
That's amazing.
That was such a wild
Very
night.
cool of them.
That might be my favorite all-time local concert I've seen.
Wow.
No, no mistakes. Everything's gone off without a hitch.
Yes. Wink,
Sounds
wink.
good.
So, what piece of entertainment, whether it's a movie, a show, anything like that, what's a piece of entertainment that you love, but that you shouldn't?
Something I love, but no, I shouldn't.
Yeah.
You mean like
Whether it's like
Kimmy
a-
Schmidt or something like that?
Any
That's
kind
just
of
an okay thing to love.
Yeah.
period.
Okay.
Do you have like
Okay.
a guilty pleasure, like musician or show, or
I
what's your McDonald's?
Oh my gosh, McDonald's. No, not McDonald's. But I was going to tell you this week. I have eaten about 6 corn dogs, and I don't think I should do that.
That's the problem. I go to the store and I get a pack of hot dogs, and there's 8 in there,
Yeah.
and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
these are ready to go now. I guess I'll just
yeah,
eat these.
yeah.
So I
They're
eat
ready.
8 hot dogs.
They'll expire. if you
Yeah,
don't
so I
eat
eat
them
8
immediately.
hot dogs in like the course of 5 days, and then I go,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not going to do that for a few more years, and then I
Do
don't
hot
learn my
dogs-
lesson.
I don't think hot dogs expire.
I don't
Anyway.
think they have anything in them
Here's
to
the-
expire.
Here's the trick with the corn dogs that you get at the stores: don't put them in the microwave. That's gross.
Oh, yeah.
right.
That's
no
like-
way.
That's sick.
Yeah.
But if you put them in the oven,
Yeah.
holy Toledo, it's like you're at the fair.
Have you had those breakfast corn dogs that are the sausage inside and
No,
the
but
pancake
he
on
doesn't
the
eat breakfast,
outside?
remember?
Oh, that's right.
How'd
That's
he
right. Well, if
goes?
you did, then that's what you would eat.
Breakfast corn dog, I'll eat those.
Okay, what is a common mistake that new photographers make?
Common mistake new photographers make is they think that the images will be what keeps them in business, their work, and it's not. It's their story, it's their pitch, their brand, how they're selling themselves.
Huh. Great answer.
All right. What article of clothing have you had the longest?
Huh.
Like you have an old shirt
Yeah.
that just you refuse
Yeah.
to let go of?
I have an old shirt. It's a blue shirt.
Old blue.
It's old blue with a V-neck. I love it. It still fits. That's why I still have it. Not 'cause it's
Despite the
wore
corn
out.
dogs.
Yeah. And
How old is this? How old is old blue?
I remember wearing it. My wife and I went to Boston the first year we were married in 2000. I remember wearing it there, and I still wear it.
All right.
Looks good. Now I wish I was wearing it right now.
Next time.
That's okay. All right, we have 2 more. So your favorite local restaurant?
Communal is hard to beat, and I like Station 22. I'd say Communal.
Cool.
All right. Last question, and you need to answer this. Just first thing that comes to your head.
Yeah, you have
Okay.
3
Don't
seconds.
don't overthink it.
Okay.
Least favorite child.
No.
Okay. Fair enough. That was the right answer.
Yeah.
I think that was the right
That
answer.
was, yeah.
I feel bad, Derek. I got like a lot of the really fun questions, and you got some of the more like
No, that's okay.
deep ones. I had shirts and least favorite children, and
I thought the breakfast one
razors.
kind of blew my mind. So
yeah,
I'm
that was
with
good. All right. Well, 10 questions. 10 questions are now logged away, and first podcast
Yeah.
pretty much wrapped up.
Man, this was fun. I
This
can't
was fun.
believe it's already been an hour. Has
Yeah.
it been an hour? It seems like 10 minutes.
I think it has been close to an hour. So Justin Hackworth, yeah,
This was
thank you.
great. You're
Thank you
welcome.
so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, just one more reminder. 7th season of the Rooftop Concert Series begins May 6th in downtown Provo.
And
so
what is the cover charge of the concert?
They're always free.
Oh boy! Wow. I actually 90% was sure about that, and I thought that's what the answer would be. But anyway, all right, great.
Hey, Justin, thank you so much, and
Thanks.
we'll see you around. Listen, do you hear that?
That is our podcast theme song, written and recorded just for us by musical wizard Colin Hatch, aka Lindenfield.
Well, guess what? Lindenfield is open for business. Whether it's for your website, your own company project,
Your own theme song.
even if you just need some theme music for rolling up to the club.
Right, that happens all the time.
Yeah. Lindenfield can work with you to create the perfect music for, honestly, whatever project you're doing.
So email us for information, whatsayYePodcast@gmail.com.
Drop the mic and said, I'm out of here.
I got pizzas to make!